Alrighty, hello everyone and welcome back. We're going to do another tier maker video today, and this time we're going to do the teams of Major League Baseball. And just like when I did the NFL video, this is not for the current season. This is their entire history, and this is just my opinion of them. Some people may disagree with my opinion, but hey, that's the great thing about this. This is just one man's opinion. So let's take a look here. We've got the first team up is the New York Yankees, and you know the Yankees are the most successful team in Major League Baseball history. They've won 27 World Series. I believe they've appeared in the Fall Classic 41 times total. Just a dominant team. When you think of Major League Baseball, if you don't know anything at all about baseball, you know about the Yankees. They are the evil empire, but they are definitely, if any baseball team was S tier, it's going to be the Yankees. Next up is the Seattle Mariners. And if you've seen the Secret Base video about the Seattle Mariners, which I highly recommend, it's a 3-hour and 30-minute epic. It's very long and very detailed about the history of the Seattle Mariners. They make the contention that the Seattle Mariners are the most interesting team in sports history. They have never appeared in the World Series, and they've never won a pennant, but they have 3 division titles, and they have a wild card berth. They've appeared in the postseason 4 times. They're currently in the middle of a playoff drought. The last time they appeared was 2001, which was a fantastic season for the Mariners. But overall, it's just been futility, and I'm going to have to put the Mariners in the C tier. The Mariners have had some great players: Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson, Edgar Martinez, Ichiro debuted in America with the Mariners, and who he is most commonly associated with. But yeah, the Mariners, in my opinion, are C tier. They should have a lot more playoff banners than they do. Next up is the Tampa Bay Rays, and over the past decade, the Rays have really become a good team, a contender. But when they were known as the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, they were awful. And they play in a horrible stadium, Tropicana Field. They're one of the teams that just, when you talk about teams that are possibly not going to be playing in the city they're in currently, or moving, you always hear about the Rays near the top of the list. So we're going to put the Tampa Bay Rays in the F tier. So yeah, they're not that great. Next up is the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays are the only team currently playing in Canada. They were the second Major League Baseball team to play to join that played its games in Canada. And they have won 2 World Series, and they've won both World Series they've appeared in. But they don't have a lot of playoff appearances overall. And when they're good, they're good. They're bad. They're really bad, and it's mostly been bad. We're gonna put them in the D tier. Next up is the Miami Marlins. The Marlins were an expansion team in the early 90s. And, the Marlins debuted in 93 and won a World Series in 1997. And then they won another one in 2003. So, 2 World Series within the first 10 years of a team. They've only had one other playoff appearance since that time. They've never won the division. Now, granted, they do play in the National League East, but just a terrible team overall. And after they've won the World Series, within hours, fire sales have begun. Management just sells off everybody. And now I think essentially they are the AAA affiliate of the New York Yankees. So we're going to put them in the F tier. Next up is the St. Louis Cardinals. And the Yankees play in the American League and the Cardinals play in the National League. And if any team was going to make a claim to being the best team ever in the National League, this would be the team. They have the second most World Series titles after the Yankees. They have 11 World Series titles. They've won the pennant 19 times. And have just, always been wildly successful. And a huge base of support there in the city of St. Louis. Next up is the Houston Astros, and the Astros are an interesting team. They are the only team to ever win the American League Championship Series and the National League Championship Series. They have represented both leagues in the World Series. And they are a World Series champion. They won it back in 2017. They have really gotten good in the past couple of seasons. They're a B tier. They're a solid team. Really, really good team. A really good history. So yeah, they're a B tier. Next up is the Atlanta Braves. Originally the Boston Braves, they're the longest continuing operating franchise in sports history. Before they were the Atlanta Braves, they were the Milwaukee Braves, and before that, the Boston Braves. They have a long and storied history. They were the team of the 90s. They were America's team. They played on the Superstation, TBS. And they are my favorite team. But I will admit, in my lifetime, they've been good. Ever since I've started caring about baseball, they've been good. They just can't win in October. They break my heart every year in October. But before my lifetime, they were really terrible. I've heard stories of you were able to go into a supermarket in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta. And Kroger at the time apparently was a big sponsor of the Braves, and they couldn't give away Atlanta Braves tickets. So we're going to put them in the B tier. No question, the team of the 90s, World Series champion in the 90s as well, once. And they won it twice in Milwaukee. So, yeah, the Braves, B tier. Next up is the Baltimore Orioles, and before they were the Orioles, they were the St. Louis Browns. They are an interesting team. They're currently not very good, and have not been for a long time. And that seems to be the story of the Orioles throughout my lifetime. And there have been moments of success with the Orioles, but overall, not that much. So we're going to put them in the D tier. Yep, D tier. Now, I will say, Cal Ripken Jr. did play for the Orioles, the Iron Man. But, yeah, overall, not that great. Next up is the Cleveland Indians. They are currently the longest drought in Major League history without the current longest championship drought. The last time the Indians won it was 1945, and then they began a steady decline. Apparent the movie Major League chronicles the Indians, and the reason the Indians were the team was just because of how terrible they were. There's a line, one guy's like, they still have a baseball team in Cleveland? But they really began to turn it around in the 90s, and were very successful in the 90s. Got very close on 2 occasions. They made it to game, very close against the Braves and the Marlins in the mid and late 90s. So Cleveland Indians, who will soon become the Cleveland Guardians next season. They have changed, or they will be changing their name. We're going to put them in the C tier. Cleveland is an interesting team, in my opinion. The Colorado Rockies are a team that, like the Marlins, began play in 1993. They play in a stadium that is very conducive to hitting. With the thin air there in Denver, they are just they've appeared in a World Series. They've also just a really strong fan base there in Denver. We're going to put them in the C tier. They're not a D tier, and they're not a B tier. In my opinion, they're a C tier, and the C tier, in my opinion's, teams that they're okay. The B tier, in my opinion, is more of those teams that are just better than okay, and better than decent. C's kind of the okay, decent range. All right. Next is the Detroit Tigers. One of the more storied franchises in baseball history. Ty Cobb played for the Tigers. They are one of the founding members of the American League. And they, despite that, not a lot of championship success per se. They have 4 World Series titles and 11 pennants. But they're really spaced out. They seem to have periods of great success and then periods of great futility. We're going to put them in the C tier. They're, yeah. Next is the Kansas City Royals, and I used to make a joke before the season. I said, if I'm going to abandon the Braves, I'm going to choose the Royals. I said, and the reason I would choose the Royals is because at least I know they're going to be terrible. Well, the Royals have started to turn things around here recently. They have yeah, they're an interesting team. They have won 2 World Series titles, 4 pennants, and they won 1 Central Division title, which is the current division they play in. They won 6 in the West, and they've made the playoffs as a wild card once. We're going to put Kansas City in the D tier. They're not an F tier team, but they're not a C tier either. Next up is the Milwaukee Brewers, who originally were the Seattle Pilots. They played 1 season in Seattle, and then they moved to Milwaukee. Originally, they were in the American League, but they moved to the National League. They won a pennant while in the American League, 1982, but they've never won a National League pennant. They joined the National League in 1998. I've been to a Brewers game. They have a strong fan base, but they're an F tier. Not that great overall. Yeah, they're an F tier. All right. Next up are the Los Angeles Angels, and they are an interesting team as well. They were once owned by Gene Autry. They are one of 2 California teams that began their life and have played their entire time under the banner of in the state of California. In 1997, they were bought by the Walt Disney Company, Angels in the Outfield. They're going to be, in my opinion, a D tier. That 2002 team was pretty interesting, but overall, not that great. All right, next up is the Oakland Athletics. And the Oakland Athletics, before playing in Oakland, played in Kansas City, and then they played in Philadelphia. So, and they might, depending on how the stadium negotiations go, be coming to a city near you. They have 9 World Series titles, 15 pennants, 17 West Division titles, and have made the playoffs 4 times as a wild card team. They're an A tier. They are a really decent team. They've been down on their luck in the past few years. They did make the playoffs in 2018, 2019, and 2020. But they, every decade, I'm looking at it here, with the exception of the 60s and the 50s, and the 40s, they made it. So, there was that stretch when they were not good, but the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s, they've been a contender. So yeah, definitely a good team. All right, so let's see here. Next up is the Phillies, the Philadelphia Phillies. We're gonna put the Phillies in the C tier. The Pittsburgh Pirates are next. Long storied history. They were founded in 1882. They appeared in, I believe, they appeared in the first modern World Series in 1903. And they have won 5 World Series titles. But like some other teams on this list, their success has been very, very spotty. So we're going to put them in the C tier. The San Diego Padres are next. They have never won a World Series. They've appeared in it twice. And they're just kind of, in my opinion, a team that should have had more success. They're another team that has played their entire existence out in San Diego. They're a D tier. Next up is the Texas Rangers. They began their life as the Washington Senators, and then moved to Texas. They were the second personification of the Rangers. They played 10 seasons. I'm sorry, they're the second personification of the Senators. They moved to Texas in 72. They've never won a World Series. They've won 2 pennants. But their history is mostly of just being a bad team. So D tier, definitely. Next up is the Boston Red Sox. And the Boston Red Sox are a team that went 86 years without a World Series, between World Series titles. But since that time, they've been there 3 times. So 4, 2004, 2007, 2013, 2018. They have 9 World Series titles total, 14 pennants, 10 East Division titles, and 7 wild card berths, and are just one of the preeminent baseball teams in Major League history. Um, I would say after the Yankees, they're probably the most famous baseball team in history. Um, they're the rival of the Yankees. We're going to put the Red Sox in the A tier. So, yeah. Next up is the San Francisco Giants. Before that, they were the New York Giants. They played in Manhattan at the Polo Grounds at Coghlan's Bluff. They have won the World Series 8 times, 23 National League pennants, and they have won the West Division 8 times and the Wild Card 3 times. We're going to put them in the A tier. There's no question. I was debating between S and A, but they're a they're an A tier team. Next is the Los Angeles Dodgers, the rivals of the San Francisco Giants, and before that, they were the Brooklyn Dodgers, of course. Jackie Robinson played for the Dodgers, helped integrate Major League Baseball. They have won 7 World Series titles. They are the defending champions, 24 pennants. 19 West Division titles and 2 wild card berths. And like the Red Sox and Yankees, another just famous baseball team. If you don't know anything about baseball, you say Dodgers, there's a chance that everyone's going to know what you're talking about. They're an A tier. Next up is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They won a World Series in 2001. They have a couple of other playoff appearances. They began play in 1998. They're an F tier as well. Just not a great team. They're struggling mightily this year. So they're an F tier. Next up is the New York Mets. The Mets have won, I believe they've won 2 World Series, 86 and 69. I know those 2 for sure. It gets 3. Buckner was the 86 team. Yes. They've won the pennant 5 times. They've won the East Division 6 times and 3 wildcard berths. They became an expansion team in 1962. Those first couple of Mets teams were bad. They set the record for most losses in a season. But, they play second fiddle in their own town, obviously, to the crosstown rival New York Yankees. But we're going to put them in the B tier. They have had the most recent Subway Series in the World Series. It was the Yankees versus the Mets in the 2000 World Series. Imagine how amazing it would have been in 2001 to have the Yankees and the Mets play each other for the World Series. Next up is the Chicago White Sox. They won the World Series in 2005. I remember that. I remember watching the celebration for the Boston Red Sox, and flipped over to WGNN out of Chicago. And their fans were thinking, we'll be next. Um, the Cubs and the White Sox, it had been 1917 since they had won a World Series, and it had been a long time since they'd even been to the World Series after that. Of course, the Black Sox scandal of 1919, you know, just a very historic scandal in baseball. They threw the World Series. There was a lot of debate about whether or not Shoeless Joe Jackson was involved in it. We're going to put them in the D tier. The White Sox have had, in their early history, some great success, but ever since that 1919 season, it has been very, very limited when they tasted success. The Minnesota Twins, they are the other team that began life as the Washington Senators. 1901, they were a founding member of the American League. Minnesota, overall, they have a below 500 record. They have a couple of World Series wins. And I'm going to hold that 400, that sub 500 record against them. They're a D tier. D tier. Next up is a team. Get ready to punch out your anger and your frustration on me. But when you go 108 years between titles, and are referred to as the lovable losers, and invent ways to lose, I'm sorry. You might have a contention that you're a decent team now, but the Cubs are a D tier. The Washington Nationals, they began life as the Expos. Moved to Washington. Great fan support in Washington. Have really turned it on in the past couple of seasons. They're apparently about to go through a rebuilding phase. So yeah, we're gonna put you in the C tier. The Nationals are in the C tier. Next up are the oldest Major League Baseball team. They are the Cincinnati Reds. They have 5 World Series titles, 9 pennants. And are, also a common contender for the bottom of their division. We're going to put them in the C tier, about middle of the pack on this, near the top of the C tier. I do think that their dominance in the 70s, the Big Red Machine, does put them a clip above the D tier. So yeah, here's the F tier. The Rays and Marlins have never won the World Series. The Rays and the Brewers have never won the World Series. The Marlins and the Diamondbacks have. Um, the Rangers, the Padres have never won the World Series. Everybody else in this tier has. C tier, the Mariners and the Rockies have never won a World Series, although the Rockies have been to the World Series. B tier, all have won the World Series. A tier, multi-time World Series champions. And of course, the S tier is number 1 and number 2 for most World Series, the Yankees and the Cardinals. So that's my that's my list. Some may disagree with it, but oh well, you'll get over it. I will see y'all later. I'll make another TierMaker list here in the next few days. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do something. I've really kind of enjoyed doing these videos, so I'll probably be doing more of them. See you.